So hopefully you've got to the first video. The first video is all about actually setting up your guide so you can move and you can actually capture your input. So it captures input using the input class. Okay? Here, the axis horizontal, so that means that whenever A and D, for instance, you pressed A is -1, D is 1, and it kind of ramps up so that if you press it very quickly, you get quite a small number, a small decimal. If you hold it down for, say, a second, you'll get 1, and then it won't ever go above 1, which means you get quite a nice sort of speeding up effect, and you get actually some bit more precision in your variables. And then we've got jump and the add force from just same previous, and the checking of the position again same in previous. Okay, so we're just going to add some comments in. So we've got a couple of fairly straightforward scripts. The one thing we haven't got is any real kind of interesting level. It's just literally running jump. So what we're going to do is add some bits and pieces for our player to collect, same as we did before, but also add a simple set of enemies and a simple set of obstacle to avoid. Okay. So we have exactly as before. We have our player control script. What we're going to do is we're going to add that script now, and we're going to actually split this out so that we have not just player control, but actually let's do it in a separate script. So in the last tutorial I put it all in the same script, which is separate it out into a separate script. The reason we do this is because it's easier to reuse, it's easier to keep track of. So we're going to call this collectibles, okay? And we're going to use it for anything that's collectibles, and we're also going to use it for the UI. Okay? So I'm just going to edit the script, okay? And same as before, what I'm going to do is, if I just go to Unity, for each of the platforms, what I did was set up, each of them has a gem and a heart present on them. The heart we'll come back to in a little while. Right? The gems are going to be our first collectible, just the same as before. And we're just going to add a bunch of gems that you can collect. So I'm just going to spread these out. And you can put them however you want, but the key thing is they all need to be called gem. Okay? They have a block collide on them as a trigger, so they can be passed through. So what we're going to do, we're going to use Unity built-in function, which is on trigger enter 2D, so that when you whatever this is attached to touches a 2D trigger, this fires. We're going to say if collision.gameObject.name equals gem, which is why we need them all to be called gem. And then we're going to say at the top have int score. So we're going to say score plus plus. So score plus plus just means score plus equal to 1. Or add 1 to the value saved in score. And whilst we're here, we're also going to add the same as we did in the last one, the UI stuff. Apparently I can't type today. We're going to make a public text, score text, and we're going to say each time we add one, score text.text equals. Okay. So now every time we touch a gem, we get a score added. So we go back to our player. We have a nice collectible script here. We drag from the canvas into the field here in the inspector. That makes the value of score text now equal to a reference to this text box. And now, every time we go past, we collect them. And we should make a small modification that says collision. Nope. So that we disable them. And I'm going to go through the level and I'm just going to add a few more gems. Making sure they are all called gem. I'm going to leave some spaces empty because that's where we're going to add enemies a little bit later. It doesn't really matter if they're sort of spread across a couple. It's just really important that they're all named gem because that is the name that it's looking for. You see, we have more gems. Kind of might want a bit higher so they don't have to jump for it. And we'll add some here. We'll try and space them out a bit more. Okay, so we'll add some to this platform. So we've got a bunch of gems placed out, scattered around the whole area, and we're just going to double check to make sure that all the gems are actually called gems. So we'll just change the name of these ones which we'd missed. So if you type something in here, it will search for it. So you can see all the objects are called gem in here, and then I'm just going to hide this so everything's a bit neater. Okay, and you can see that whole thing as I go through, collect them. Let's not do that. So as I go through and collect them, I can jump and I can fall off. And each time I jump and fall off, they reset. Okay, so that's kind of present. We have some very basic mechanics there. We can run through and we can collect things, but actually, you know, any kind of platformer needs some enemies, and I have a couple that have been created. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag them in, and I'm going to put one here. And I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to put a couple here. So these are just saw blades, so they're kind of half saw blades. They've got a circle collider around them, and they're going to trigger so that you can't be blocked by them. And what we're going to do is going to write a very simple script that says simply remove and do some damage to the player. But before we do some damage to the player, we need a health script. So, we've not really done much with a health script before, but we're just going to treat it very similar way to the score. After all we're doing is saving a value behind the scenes. We're going to have an integer for health, and we're going to say public and we will this time set health for 3, say, and we're going to say I'm just going to call this take damage. So we've created a new function completely separate here. It's public so that it can be seen outside this script, which will become really useful in a second. And all we're going to say is every time we take damage, we're going to say health equals health minus 1. We could also put health by minus. And then we're going to say if say less than or equal to 0, but just in case some miracle managed to get below 0, we're going to level 0. So here you might want to put up some game over score, you might want to jump to another level, it's up to you, but we're just going to reload the level for the time being. So this take damage is what's going to be called whenever we actually want to take damage. So onto and what we're going to do on the prefab of saw half. So I'm going to open the prefab. I'm going to remove this, which shouldn't be on yours, and I'm going to create a new script called enemy. And that new script called enemy, what we're going to do is we're going to say edit script, and once again we're going to say onto go into 2D if collision dot game object dot compare tag player. So in other words, if the object is tagged as player that we collide with on the enemy, we're going to say collision dot get object dot get component okay. So if the object we collide with is tagged player, okay, get the health script and the take damage function. And that's that take damage function we called earlier. Okay. And what we're going to do, just so that we've got a bit more visual towards it, so this should now load in. Underneath the score text here, okay, in the canvas, I'm just going to create another one. I'm going to call it health text. We'll replace the image with a heart, probably knocking that down a bit. Definitely knocking that down a bit. So 70 and 70, say. Let's try 50 and 50. It's a bit better, just because we don't want it too big. And what we're going to do, we're going to set this value here to be 0. So we could make hearts disappear, we could have a sliding scale, we could have all sorts of things. But for the time being, we're just going to have the health show. So we'll say health text dot text equals health dot toString. And this time we're going to do the same thing here in start, so it's very clear, okay? Which means that so again, don't do what I forgot to do, which is to drag the health text into here. Okay. And you can see that we have 3, and when we jump and hit that, we move down to 2. What we could do, we could quite easily, so we end up reloading level. We could quite easily have it so that we have an effect and maybe damage the character, maybe do all sorts of different things. So we have a couple of different sprites here, a couple of different animations. But what we're going to do is just have it so that the HUD goes down. We can look maybe a bit later at changing. Maybe we change the sprite to something else. Maybe have it appear over his head, whatever else. But we're going to have that appear later. So now you've set up your first enemy. You have a way of getting health. Very, very quickly before we end the video, what we're going to do is we've had a way of taking damage. What we're going to do is we're just going to have a opposite way of heal damage. Okay. Same way as before. In fact, I'm just going to copy all of this. Instead of taking away one, we're going to add one. Okay. Don't need that check. So just the same thing, but to taking away one, add one. And in our in our collectible script, beg your pardon, we're going to say if or else if so you probably see where this is going. Instead of directly changing the score, we're going to say get component health dot heal damage. And then for some of the platforms, we have a look. Let's find out where there's some gaps. There's gaps here, perhaps. Perfect. So I'm going to put less hearts around than pickups, just so that we have a bit more rarity. I'm just going to scatter them around in a few different places. So again, we're going to take some damage. We're going to jump across. We'll avoid that one. We're going to run across to here. Avoid that one. Run across to here, and you can see that we go across to the health. And once again, what we're going to do for this one, as well as making the object disappear so we can't see it anymore. What we're going to do in heal is we're going to also have a what we call a clamp. Okay, so we're going to say health equals. So what this will do is say for the health variable, okay, we're going to give it a minimum, which is 0, and a maximum, which is 3. So what we can't do is collect the variable too many times, or collect the health too many times if the health is full, and we can't go over full health. Okay, and that should now conclude the tutorial. So you should be able to take damage, heal damage. Next video, what we'll do is we'll add a few little finishing touches, we'll add a few more collectible potentially, and we'll also add perhaps another enemy or so, and the all important win condition.